So last week it was announced that there's going to be a new Avengers team headlining the Avengers book coming out of Armageddon from Marvel, and it drew a bit of controversy, I would say, purely from comic book Twitter. So I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I feel like most people did like it. It was just the outliers that were way more vocal about it. So if you didn't see the news, it's being written by Chip Zdarsky and drawn by Marco Checchetto, the creative team behind the Daredevil run that led into Devil's Reign, that obviously inspired the Daredevil Born Again show, at least season 2. And a lot of people enjoy that run. Chip Zdarsky has been doing a lot since then. He is currently writing Captain America, I believe. He also wrote Batman right after it and did a lot of different stuff compared to his Daredevil run. And Marco Checchetto was drawing Ultimate Spider-Man, but now with the Ultimate Universe dying, they need to find a new home for him. They need to find something else for him. So you might as well do this. And I do think that it is a good move for the Avengers. But that's something we could probably get into other time. This really isn't going to be purely about this new Avengers run. If you couldn't tell from the title of the video alone, this is me giving my lineup for the Avengers. Like, if Marvel gave me the pen and told me, hey, you get to make up the current Avengers lineup, the current Avengers book, here you go. And while I do love the lineup that we're going to get, outside of one that hasn't been revealed yet, even though they have said that they are coming, there's going to be like this new character that's going to be added onto this team that they haven't been showing yet. A little iffy on that, but we'll just have to wait and see. Other than that, I do like the lineup. I do wish we had a little more diversity within the ranks. We have like Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. She's like the only woman on the team. No, I think they could have changed that. Honestly, they could have changed out Daredevil for like Elektra. But yeah, we got Matt Murdock Daredevil, we got Luke Cage, we got Wolverine, and we got Spider-Man. Really good lineup. It's very reminiscent of the new Avengers lineup from Brian Michael Bendis, to the point that a lot of people were just like, oh, this is just reheating Bendis's nachos. But you know what? If the nachos still taste good, that's all I care about. But in terms of my Avengers lineup, it's not gonna be like this. Actually, I don't think any member from this team actually joined my final lineup. And it's not like I was trying to do that. It's just like my idea for an Avengers team is way more like kind of classic Avengers, kind of like Earth's Mightiest Heroes a bit, but adding in a little aspect that I think would be really cool to it as well. And we'll get to that aspect later, but I'm going to start off with 5 members that to me will represent what I feel like the Avengers are meant to be. So first, I want to start off with what is, in my opinion, the 3 core members of the Avengers. And to me, you can't really have an Avengers team if you don't have Captain America, Iron Man, or Thor on there. To me, it just feels like once you take one of those members out of there, it feels off. It feels weird. It doesn't necessarily have to be Tony, Odinson, and Steve. But with my lineup, we're going to be keeping Tony as Iron Man and Odinson as Thor. But we are going to swap out Steve for Sam, because if you're going to have 2 Captain Americas, you need to make sure you have a proper spotlight on Sam, because I feel like with how Marvel is, it's pretty easy for them to disregard secondary characters. And unfortunately, when you keep Steve around and make him Captain America with Sam, you do run the risk of Sam becoming the secondary character there. And in this hypothetical universe where Marvel gave me the pen, I would still do something with Steve, whether it's he is just on the solo Captain America book, or maybe he's a mentor for like a superhero team of young characters like the Champions. Like, he's like, you know what? We should be focusing on our youth, and I'm going to help guide them as like the paragon of this universe. So that's my initial lineup, my kind of like trinity for this team is Sam, Cap, Iron Man, and Thor. And for the 2 other 5 core members, to me originally, it was going to be Carol, Captain Marvel, and Wanda, Scarlet Witch. But then I started thinking, at least when it came to Carol, and being like, you know what? Carol has gotten a lot of spotlight to the point that I feel like we do need to put more of a spotlight on Monica Rambeau. And again, in this hypothetical universe, if I had the pen, Carol would have her own book, she would have her own team over there. But when it came to the Avengers, I would put Monica on there. I like Monica. She has a great history, especially with the Avengers. I feel like she just fits better on this team, especially with what I wanted to do with this team, which is acknowledge the history of the team as well as the future. And for my fifth member, originally this was supposed to be Scarlet Witch to represent like magic, to have like a character tied to magic. But if we're going to talk about characters that I feel like have been screwed over, especially when it comes to their ties to the Avengers, I can't help but put Janet Van Dyne Wasp on this team. Now, growing up, I loved Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Avengers cartoon. It formed so much of my attachment to the Avengers and to a lot of the characters within the team that the way that Janet has been screwed for almost her entire history by Marvel as only really being relevant in the context of Hank, I just hate. I hate that, and I do think she needs to be her own character. And while I would just be like, well, let's just make a Wasp book and do that, unfortunately, that book would just not sell. So I feel like maybe trying to revitalize her character within a team book and maybe doing a solo book after that would be a good idea. And I feel like if we're talking about really, respecting the history of the Avengers, Wasp is the one who gave them their name. Like in the context of the story of the first issue of Avengers, she is the reason why they're called Avengers. And I feel like, and there's also so much history of her on the team, I believe she even led it at one point, that the way that she's been treated by Marvel as like essentially she just doesn't even exist. I just really would like to see that be amended and fixed for them to actually do something with her. But then we get out my core 5 members, the elder statesmen, as I'll call them, to my 3 other members. Now, originally I was thinking of only like 2 extra or just 1 extra member, but when I started thinking about like the younger generations of Marvel, characters that were always kind of labeled as, here are like the next ones up, the heroes that are going to come and be the elder statesman once the established ones leave. Even though that's never happened, I want this team to kind of address that. The teenagers that were supposed to come afterwards. And I'm just going to start with a big one up front, at least the more well-known one, which is Miles Morales Spider-Man. I always like a Spider-Man being on the Avengers, and with where Pete is right now, I'm a little unsure. That's something I am skeptical about with him being on the current Avengers. Is like, is Chip just going to completely ignore what they're doing with him right now? I hope so. But I feel like Miles is a better fit than Peter, because Peter, he always kind of started out as a loner. Whereas with Miles, he became Spider-Man in a more established universe for heroes. So I feel like it makes sense for him to gravitate more towards a superhero team than it does with Peter. Miles, I think, is a good fit. He was an Avenger at one point, but it was during a time where it was right after Secret Wars. The book wasn't honestly that great. I think Peel was fine in it. Miles was written by Mark Waid. Actually, the more that I think about it, I think my Avengers team is literally just a kind of copy of that because in that book, he had the Elder Statesman, which was like Iron Man and Vision, and he also had Cap and Thor, but it was Sam Cap and Jane Foster Thor, and he also had 3 younger heroes joining the team, one of them being Miles, so, and also, with my Avengers team, it would be about exploring the past of the Avengers, and in that book, the main villain was Kang. But I wouldn't want my Avengers book to cover Kang because Kang sucks. I never liked Kang. He was cool in the cartoon show, but like, he was never cool outside of that. And if you think that he was, you're lying to yourself. Moving on to the next hero though, I wanted to have a representative from the Young Avengers, and also, as someone who loved Hawkeye from the animated show, I feel like this team wouldn't be right without a Hawkeye on the team. And while I do love Clint, Kate Bishop should 100% be an official Avenger by now. I think she was, maybe during like the Jason Aaron run, maybe most recently, I don't know. But she should be. She should be an Avenger. So yeah, I would definitely put Kate on the team. It would be interesting to see her interactions with Miles, considering their history in the Ultimate Universe, even though that was a different Kate Bishop. But I think Miles still remembers that. Like, he still remembers the Ultimate Universe. Maybe he should, but like, it would kind of be funny to see that. But yeah, I think Kate Bishop's a perfectly good fit. I believe she did lead the West Coast Avengers. You know, time to give her a promotion. We're going East Coast, okay? We're going New York, all right? And then finally, this one I don't feel like people would really expect. Now, when it came to this pick, you know, I was kind of picking from the different generations. Even though Kate and Miles debuted pretty close to one another, you know, Miles is more like 2010s, Kate's more 2000s. So I wanted to go for like maybe a 90s character, maybe even 80s. Originally, I was thinking of a New Warriors character, maybe like Speedball, Night Thrasher, but like they don't really fit. They kind of stick out like a sore thumb, I feel like, especially with this team. And also, I don't really care for the New Warriors. So to me, it was off the bat, no. I don't think I'm going to add the New Warriors to this team. Maybe, you know, maybe the only one I would really consider at all would be Richard Rider Nova. That's it. But even then, I feel like as much as Nova on the Avengers just makes sense, I feel like right now where we are with Richard Rider, especially with all the stuff going on in space, I don't know if it would be a good fit. I also feel like he is one of those few characters that I feel like has been allowed to age up. So him being on the Avengers as one of the younger generation feels a little off. So I'm going to go with someone who might be a deep cut just because I feel like a lot of people don't even remember this character, even though they were a part of a very prominent run within the 90s, a very celebrated run within the 90s, and that's Jolt from the Thunderbolts. How is she not an Avenger? I was thinking about it the other day. There's a great video by B Mask where he just goes over the history of the Thunderbolts, and it is so good. It has a lot of work into it that's just incredible. I would definitely check it out if I were you. It's a very long video, but you can tell that they put a lot of effort into it. So I gotta shout that out. And as someone who was a fan of the Thunderbolts before then, I just really like Jolt, and it's a big shame that she has never really gotten a big spotlight out of that book because her costume's cool. She has like Spider-Man kind of goggles in a way, like the way that her eyes look. The comic is drawn by Mark Bagley, the Thunderbolts comic is, and you can just tell that he was just like, look, if I'm gonna be able to design one of these characters' eyes, I'm gonna make sure that it looks like Spider-Man. Like the costume's cool too. It's got like blue, red, yellow, got the primary colors. I believe it's actually supposed to be black, red, and yellow, which is a good color scheme too. But like her whole character with that is that she was the only one in that team that wasn't a villain and actively turns them around to being good guys at the end of it. And I feel like there was just so much potential for her. I believe she was also like a big fangirl of superheroes. It was kind of like she kind of was the 90s Miss Marvel in a way, in the sense of like she's this young female character that really adored superheroes that could have been way more than what she was. Like, in the same way that Miss Marvel should be a huge character in current Marvel if it wasn't for a lot of editorial kind of downplaying her, not really giving her that big of a spotlight, especially now where she's just another X-Men. Joel should have been a bigger deal. She should have been a bigger character. And I feel like by putting her on this team, it could be a way to remedy it. You could even have it like in the storyline kind of talk about that in a sense, like allude to the fact that nothing's been done with Jolt since the Thunderbolts comic. I feel like she should be a bigger deal. I don't know. I just really like the character and I would like to see her make a comeback in this. And I feel like she would definitely be a bit of a wild card because, you know, we haven't seen her for so long. You could play it off in the storyline of her having resentment of being overlooked, feeling like she had so much potential, but never getting the opportunity to show it. I don't know. I think it would be pretty cool to add her to the team. But yeah, that's really all I had to say about my Avengers lineup. I didn't really put much thought into like what their overall storylines would be. To me, I would just make it mostly a combination of, you know, adding in some new threats to the team while really discovering some others. You could add old members and new members throughout. Like the only one I really thought about was like you could have them go against Ultron. Maybe Ultron comes back and that's how you bring Hank Pym back into the team. You know, try to reestablish Hank Pym as a good guy and do it that way. You could focus on more street level stuff, like maybe the Hand comes back. I don't think they really did anything after the Punisher Jason Aaron run, so maybe this could be a new way of reestablishing the Hand. They probably did, honestly. I just didn't read it. Whatever comic the Hand was in, I definitely did not read it after Aaron's Punisher. But like maybe you could do something like that. Maybe that's how you get like Daredevil into the team, or Elektra's Daredevil into the team. I feel like that would be a really fun addition to the team, adding in Elektra. I mean, there's so many characters that it's just like weird that they were ever Avengers, that like making Elektra a part of the team it wouldn't even look weird. Like, Robbie Ray as Ghost Rider is a weirder fit for the Avengers than Elektra ever could be, if we're being honest with ourselves. Fucking Echo as the Phoenix was a part of the Avengers. So like, I feel like Elektra would fit in more than a lot of recent Avengers members. But yeah, that's all I really had to say. Again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.